cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh. 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 It's black and white. Black and white.
everyone, good evening and welcome to Sim Racers World TV. My name is Hasse Rømer. I'm joined by Edward May in the commentary booth, and it is our absolute pleasure to bring you welcome and bid you welcome to the SimracerCoin Sunday GT Masters. Round 11 from Monza, one of the fastest tracks around, and it's always guaranteed for some great action with the GT3s around here. I think we're in for a brilliant night of racing. Indeed, Edward, you've been racing here a fair few times, I guess, by now, and in these machines, by well, what is your expectations for what we're about to see here on track tonight?
Oh, thank you very much, Hassan. We're going to be expecting some excellent racing here at the true cathedral of speed, Monza. What can be said about this track that hasn't already been said by countless racing drivers and sports journalists alike? It's such a historic, but it's a venue that oozes motorsport, isn't it? When you think of a racing circuit, you'll think of tracks like Spa, Silverstone, Monza, all in the same breath, because they are the tracks that embody this motorsport scene. And we're going to be treated to some excellent racing here in GT3s as well, one of the most popular racing categories going at the moment. So open in the real life to many different cars, many different makes, but also on iRacing, it's becoming more and more popular. Before, it used to be the GTEs, but I think now it's fair to say that the GT3s are probably one of the more popular categories, and for good reason, because they give us such excellent racing that the drivers enjoy as well.
Yeah, indeed, it's a car that's a class of cars that's relatively easy, and I say relatively because nothing in racing is truly easy as such, but they're relatively easy to pick up. And speaking of the GTE, GT3 sort of relationship, if you will, it has been decided now as well in the real world, as well as in iRacing, that the GT3s will be taking over the regular GT duties on the endurance scene as well. And that's going to be what the future brings, as it is in real life as well, Edward. So I think it makes good sense for this class to see this continued development on, and it's great to see. Of course, we do have the still relatively new Porsche 911 GT3R on the grid here tonight as well, and we have open setups for tonight. Of course, mind you, this is alternating on the rounds, so the odd rounds are open setups, and the even rounds are fixed setups. Indeed, had a good season so far. We're nearing the end of it indeed, Edward. I'm just going to glance at the standings quickly. We got Matthew Forrest leading, 227 points to his name. 10 points clear of Pete Plastow, mind you. There's 30 to be picked up for a race win here. Everything could still happen. Martin de Jong, relatively close as well. He's 30 points off the lead and third place at the moment there with 197 points to his name. Then a fair gap to Nicola McLaughlin, fourth with 162. Koen Mulder, our reigning champ, fifth at the moment with 113. Then Timothy van der Broek, 111. And Nicolas Cucato, who've been driving very well as of late here in the most recent rounds of the series, 106 points to his name. Cody Steek, Nils Cornelis, and Alfredo Tricorici rounds off the top 10. That said, we are nearing the end of a practice session where once again, Edward, Matthew Forrest is topping the leaderboards. And besides Matthew having had an incident or two in the course of the season, what do you think the other drivers are gonna have to do and actually pull out to be able to topple this gentleman who seems to be so fast indeed?
In short, just drive faster, but that's not necessarily the case, is it? Because of Matthew Forrest, he's just so consistent up at the front, as well as pace to put in lap after lap. We saw last time out, he wasn't necessarily fastest over one lap, but his consistency was what allowed him to come through. So definitely keep your eyes on Matthew Forrest. Just pure ability to pump out the laps time and time again. Look after the tyres as well over the course of a race distance. 45 minutes, of course, with a mandatory pit stop needed. Means that there are plenty of chances for drivers to make some gains if they aren't the fastest driver over one lap, but are a little bit quicker over the course of a race distance. But like you were touching on, different cars, different drivers. think this is the older style, or is this the newer style Ferrari we're seeing now? Because I think the newer style Ferrari is slightly more aggressive air on the front, and I think that's what we're seeing here. So the driver's switching over to the new Ferrari, the Evo version.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm not the person to be able to spot the difference on the two. To me, they still look very similar indeed. Here's Gaston Body. We might have seen the new car. Maybe noticeable if some of the drivers have new liveries for him as well. We'll keep our eyes open for that.
They do all have new liveries, actually. I think I'm not seeing the same sort of paint jobs, and there is actually. You can see the front end of the car is slightly more aggressive aero, which I think is the real difference where you can tell it. And also, I think actually the wing mirror is also slightly different.
Yeah, that's cool. Does indeed look like the new Ferrari. Yeah, those wing mirrors seem... Oh, and someone's taking a spinner. And I wonder, it's a Lamborghini. It is indeed Matthew Forrest finding the limits here towards the end of the practice session at the end, or at the exit of the...
too much of the curb actually into the second Lesmo. He just cuts it a little bit too much on the inside, finds a bump, unsettles the car and spins it around. So he's just trying to find the limit now, maybe pulling out a few qualifying simulations just before the real deal that's going to be coming on board though with Heibel. And just listen to that McLaren. What a great sounding engine that is.
Brilliant car, the McLaren. It's become a little bit niche, I'm afraid. But still it's hard not to love that machine. That's fire-spitting nature. The only GT3 machines that does indeed spit fire out the rear exhausts. And it did have a few seasons, not too long ago, a few years ago, where it was actually competitive at least, and some drivers that are well familiar to it seem to be able to extract quite a lot out of it. But it's known to be a twitchy car, it's known to be difficult, and with a very tight steering ratio as well. And you'll be able to see that here on Van den Heuvel's steering input. Rob the Lobster, as he's known at. Trust me, and Robert actually came forward with this himself. I think we would never come up with such nicknames on our own. Rob the Lobster it is. Of course, the organizer of the series, as well as driving in it. By the way, a very warm welcome to you all joining in there. Chris Roberts, Ben Hoffman, Timothy Vanderbroek, and Gerrit Beyer. Nice to have you all along, and I hope you will be enjoying the show here tonight as we're moving into our regular 15-minute qualifying session. It's going to be followed by 45 minutes of racing here from Monza. And of course, with the tried and tested VRS sprint endurance, I was about to call it, that makes little sense. No, the tried and tested VRS sprint formula indeed. 45 minutes of racing and 50% fuel allowed for the cars, meaning that, of course, we'll see pit stops around the 30-minute mark. We've had an eventful season so far, Edward, and Monza, often at least, lends itself to some hectic racing indeed. Is that what you think we're going to see here tonight as well? Well, there's definitely room to overtake, isn't there? You've got the long, flat-out sections like this one coming into Ascari. You might see a few moves being made, but also, of course, the real overtaking zones are into the first and second chicanes, heavy braking zones where the drivers will be basically sending moves down the inside of one another, especially on the first lap as well. So that's something to watch out for. Practice just coming to an end, though, so all the drivers are shifting their focus firmly towards qualifying. And while pole position might not necessarily be the place that wins the race, it will put you in the best spot to do exactly that. So Matthew Forrest, fastest driver out on the circuit, could be looking to carry on that form from practice into qualifying and then into race. But another thing to note as well, actually, is he's going to have a lot of competition behind him. Timothy Vanderbroek, Eric Luke as well. I've been looking very quick here this evening, so don't count them out for flying lap in qualifying. Another thing to note as well, Hasse, is that I believe all of the drivers share the qualifying circuit together. So there's a bit of chance for some slipstreams to come through. Maybe teammates working together to get each other high up the order. Yeah, it's true. It's certainly one of those tracks where a good toe, a perfectly timed toe, could gain you quite a lot. The problem is that the best places to get it is in the beginning of a lap, and if you'll be catching up to someone, won't get a fast time in at all. At least if you'll get blocked out. But we see, as true to the tradition of the series, Edward, cars are indeed storming out the pits here, and let's go on board here with the Porsche 911 virtual racing compound machine of Chris Roberts. Chris Roberts wanting to make sure that he has a bit of space in front of him. And drivers seem to be opting for a different strategy here and there. Some drivers opt to be pushing, it seems, to get out the pits quickly, while others take the patient approach, such as Chris Roberts here. But interesting to notice, Chris Roberts right ahead of what I think is the Lamborghini of Matthew Forrest. Yes, it is indeed. Could that be an example of what you mentioned before, Edward? Or is this pure coincidence? Well, I guess we'll never know. But we'll see if Matthew Forrest will be able to gain anything from it. That much is certain.
I think if they're on the track together at the same place, you'll know that they're talking to one another, and it makes even more sense the fact that there's number 77 just in front and 78 that we're looking at, Matthew Forrest. So I'm fairly certain they're all together. Look, you can also see the other virtual racing compound car in the front as we see a car in the background spin around. But look at all of these virtual racing compound cars on the track together just in front. I think there's a couple more. I think I saw a couple of BMWs. Let's have a look, though, at Timothy Vanderbroek. Just, is this running a little bit too wide out of the final corner? Yes, it is. That will invalidate a lap, I believe, in qualifying. But as he's starting a lap, you might just be able to get away with that.
Yes, and that's actually interesting, because that could gain him the slightest of advantages over those not extending out there. It is not very grippy though on the AstroTurf, so you really have to be dialed, get the best out of it. We had someone spinning. There was one of the Gabbiano machines. It was a Gabbiano Porsche. I wonder if it was indeed Sandro Orsini who's just left the pits. But I'm afraid we did not get any kind of event viewer incident on it, so we're not able to pull back and see what happened to Sandro. But let's that in mind. The two championship contestants, of course, teammates on paper, driving two different cars. We've seen them race closely throughout the season.
Virtual racing compound cars, though. You've got Pete Plasdow. Then in behind, you've got the BMW, I believe. Who is that actually in the BMW? I think
that's a train. Look at that. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they're all together.
Pete Plasdow might have.
Eric Luke. Then you've got just up in front in the. Is that not Chris Roberts? Oh, maybe, yeah, Chris Roberts, I think, in the. Yeah, that is Chris Roberts in the number 77. And then in behind, of course, got Matthew Forrest. So they are all working together in cahoots with one another. As I mentioned just before qualifying, they might try and do this, work together. They've got enough cars to do exactly that. So the first flying laps will come through. Pete Plasdow to go to the back of the train. In behind. Well, it's championship rivals. This is going to help him out massively down the start for a straight and into the first chicane. But Matthew Forrest goes to the top of the timing sheets with a 46.674. Very quick lap time from Matthew there, but I think the times are only going to get quicker as he's getting even more slipstream now, but had to slow down just a touch to not get into the back of his teammate.
And now he's gone off track, I think, here, and wonder if he just tried to get out of the way or if he knew that he overcooked it. Oh, he certainly knew that he overcooked it, and he wanted to get out of the way as well, I think, of his teammate and championship rival as well, Pete Plasdow, who's now the one to gain the advantage from Chris Roberts. At least they're playing an even game here. Roberts staying out. Big time indeed from Matthew Forrest. It's over a second quicker than what Chris Roberts managed to do on the last lap. Timothy Vanderbroek has yet to get a counting lap in. I think he got right off track there on his first lap. Or you know what? Oh yeah, it should be because he's done a full lap. He's now in the pits. Wonder if something happened to him as well.
Coming back out on the circuit now, though, is Timothy, and he's got 10 minutes to go in this qualifying session as we follow Pete Plastow now through the final corner. Powers out nicely. Staying well clear of the white line, not wanting to run too far out. Then brings it close to the right-hand side, breaks the timing beam, and what is it? It's second fastest for Pete Plastow. But like you say, half a second almost off of Matthew Forrest now. So there's a lot to do, a lot to try and gain up to, as Chris Roberts is third fastest, but did improve on his previous time, just not enough to get any higher positions. Look at all of the cars in front of Pete Plasdale, though, going to help him out massively on this second flying lap. Sometimes the tyres in these GT3s take a couple laps to get into the peak window, and you have, well, maybe 2 laps of peak tyre performance before they start to trail off again. Then they hit a sort of plateau where they stay at that performance. So good to see. Not so good to see, though. Someone spinning off, but I'm not sure who that is. It looks like one of the Mercedes, one of the GTZ Bulls. That could be Bruno Guedes.
Could be indeed. Yeah, indeed it is Bruno Guedes. So, I have to wonder. This is an older incident for Guedes as well. See what happened there. He chooses to park it. Martin de Jong's now got second fastest.
Ooh.
Yeah, indeed. Just 600ths of a second ahead of Pete Plastow, who certainly gained a lot on Chris Roberts on this lap. And I'm wondering if he's this close to Roberts, he might have to... Oh, someone's had a big moment there behind. It's one of the Virtua Racing Ferraris. But we're watching Pete Plastow. Interesting to see.
Right up behind now, isn't he? Right up behind Chris Roberts. So close. Going to be pushing him almost across the line.
He just goes inside. Stays with the tire on the wide line. Let's see what kind of lap time's going to be for Plastow. He goes second fastest here. 3.5 tenths off of Matthew Forrest. Ahead of Martin de Jong, though, provisionally. And pushes Chris Roberts into 4th place for now. Remco Barlow for WPR Racing Team is 8th at the moment. Eric Luke, who's also done some very competitive pace so far, is 6th in the standings. A bit further down, and nice to see as well, Chris Pio in the Ford GT for Apex Tech. He's here 12th place at the moment here in qualifying. I know we're only... well, hardly even... we are actually just about halfway into it. Just a little bit more, actually. But 12th place for Pio so far in the very legacy Ford GT. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, not bad whatsoever from Chris Pio. The fastest of the 2 Fords in this qualifying session, as there is the second one driven by Matt Sizzler. Spaceballs, the Ford. You can see on the... side doors. They break for nobody.
That's brilliant stuff indeed. Best cursed livery of the series, I have to say, and it's great to see that little bit of humor come into it as well. It's very hard not to love the Ford GT, I have to say, and it's a big of an engine. Alfredo Tricarici was the Ferrari that had a big moment as well before. He's 15th at the moment. I don't think he'll be too happy with that. He'll be wanting to improve, that is for sure. Gassambodi, his teammate, 10th at the moment. And Gaston Macaroni, 5th. Nicolas Cocato, 6th. So Virtua Racing are up there as well. One of the teams that sprung a lot of drivers to this series. Into the... as we're approaching the final 5 minutes of qualifying.
Not easy for us commentators, those that having virtual racing and then virtual racing compound. It is quite easy for us to get our words mixed up on occasion, but we have just seen in the background actually quite a few virtual racing compound drivers all out on track together as well. I think I saw Eric Luke in the slipstream of a car just up ahead. So those drivers might be trying a second bite of the cherry in the final 5 minutes as well. The Miku machine, haven't seen much of that, but good to see it back out on the circuit. Pedro Maron Cladera entering the race server a little bit late in the day. Hopefully you've been able to get some practice outside of this session and see where that can put him. Usually a driver that competes for the top 10 positions. Is he going to have a repeat performance here tonight?
Well, it's great to see the Miku Machina livery
Can't
that
miss
really...
it, can you?
No, I was just about to say it's a livery that really stands out. It's hard to miss. I think he's gone a little hot in on the cold tires, though, there. Also got Damien Cobra, of course, in his Ferrari. 18th at the moment. The privateer pole. Yet to take his first pole position. Or you could say he's always in a pole position, at least. Sorry, my dad puns. Forgive me for even for not being a father. I'm not a father. Only my humor is. Nicolas Cucato here, 8th at the moment. Martin de Jong's hanging on to it as well. He's right behind the other Audi here, 3rd. And de Jong's an interesting character in this one because he's been very consistent over the season. Yet he's had a few moments here and there. And with those 30 points that he's lagging after the leader, you have to wonder. It's been so close for Martin and been reluctant to kind of call himself out as a championship contender. But then again, and I think we always like to talk people up, Edward, but indeed, it won't take much for Martin to really be up there, and being that it's relatively late in the season, never say never. So let's see here from Martin de Jong, who's just been pushed into 4th place by Eric Luke, who's just gone massively into the gravel through the Curva Grande. And I wonder if he did that on purpose to make sure that he didn't get in the way of traffic.
Eric Luke, now 2nd fastest. Good effort from him. Matthew Forrest again into the 46s, consistently quick. Matthew Forrest, that lap time he just set was still be enough for pole position, only by about half a tenth, but still Matthew Forrest is the driver to beat here. And I don't even think he had that much slipstream on that last lap. So a very strong performance from Matthew Forrest behind the wheel of the Lamborghini. I can't actually see anyone else using. I think it is only Matthew Forrest out there in that car, but he's making it work.
Yeah, he did have another teammate for BRC, but I don't recall just who it was. And that's my excuses, but it's down to the number of drivers in their team. And the number of drivers in the series, actually.
Canadian that raced for Virtual Racing Compound, but I forget his name as well.
The Canadian. It's the Canadian! We're back to Formula 1 97 with Murray Walker and them not having the license for Shaq Billion. The Canadian was what he was called then, but no, it is indeed not the Canadian, whose name I now also have forgotten, which is great indeed. It's been too long since we've been here with the Sunday GT Masters. He's indeed not here tonight, the Canadian. But please, chat, help us out. Please help us out, chat. Or I could just look at our, mind you,
well, so I'll let you search away, try and find the names if you can, because we've got Pete Plasdow coming through to complete another flying lap here with 1 minute still to go, so he'll be able to complete this final time around the circuit. That's still a good lap time, but not enough to improve. A 1 minute 47.192, not enough at the moment. Pete Plasdow to go any quicker in terms of his qualifying position. Dirk Reski improves his lap time, but position stays at 11th place and is in the pits, so won't be going any quicker in the day here. More drivers, though, coming across the line, trying in vain attempts to improve right at the end. Checkered flag is about to be waved, so any drivers that complete the laps now will be able to finish the next lap. However, once the checkered flag is dropped, they won't be able to come through across the line. So a lot riding on this for Pete Plasdow. Can he come through? Can he come out on top ahead of teammates Eric Luke and Matthew Forrest? Get up onto that front row and maybe challenge Matthew into the first corner, because from that lap time that Matthew set, I don't think anybody could be beating that today.
It's going to be hard indeed. It is. Nick, of course, Nick McLaughlin being the VRC Canadian. You shall now have a name, and we now have license to use. I don't know if we have that. I'm not gonna get into that stuff. But it was a good pun indeed. I hope some of you have played Formula 1 97 at some point on the PS1. To me, it is still the best Formula 1 game that's ever been made. But that's because no Formula 1 game ever since had commentary by Murray Walker.
It was great. And then you'd have, what was it? You'd have Martin Brundle pipe up, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
right
exactly.
There,
you're right there,
and then
Murray.
That was it.
And then
no,
not exactly, because
Ferrari, wouldn't he?
he'd talk about what's it like, the side parts and the crash structure on the side parts, and
we bang on about air intakes as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the air intakes. Now the air intakes about the driver's heads have to be much bigger to accommodate the something. Oh, yeah, and it was you, Chris, indeed, in the Lambo as well, before the Porsche was released. The Checkered Flag has now come out, which means, of course, as you probably all know, that the drivers that are still on laps have the chance to complete them, come across the checkered line. Sometimes it is a checkered line, but it's a finish line that has a checkered flag. And it's being waved right now. And Sizzler, I don't know if he's on a flying lap.
I think he will be. No, I don't think he's been able to get across the line in time. So this is just Matt Sisler coming in on an in-lap into the pits, practicing, of course, pit entry. Very much something you want to focus on because there is a mandatory pit stop needed to be taken in the 45-minute race that's going to be upcoming, Hasse. We expect to see drivers, don't we, around about the half-hour mark, like their pit stops, but basically any time after, say, 15 minutes or so of racing have gone through, that's where the pit lane opens, the pit window rather, opens up for drivers to come in, make maybe an early stop and then come in. So Matt Sisler comes in after the end of qualifying. We're very happy with an 18th place grid starting position. However, you might not be too happy that he's behind his teammate Chris Pio, because you always want to out-qualify your teammate, especially when you're in the same machine.
Yeah, indeed. That's always the test, isn't it? They might not be on exactly the same setups here. They could. Von Mulder's going to squeeze everything out of it for qualifying. He really haven't had the best of qualifying sessions this season, but he's been good in the races. Anyway, it's another pole position for Matthew Forrest. It's another front row lockout for VRC with Eric Luke second. It's Peter Plastow in third ahead of Martin de Jong, then Gaston Macaroni and Chris Roberts on row 3. Timothy Van der Broek joined by Remco Barlow on row 4 with Nicolas Cocato and Nuno Vinagre on row 5 with Dirk Reski and Koen Mulder on row 6. As we scroll down a bit, then Bruno Guedes and Gaston Boré row 7. Giambattista Giacchetti on row 8 with Craig Thompson, then Chris Pio and Matt Sisler, the two Fords and Apex Tech teammates on row 9. Alfredo Trigarici is joined by Damien Cobra on row 10, and then the Lobster himself joined by Cody Steek on the 11th row of cars there. The Miku Mercedes of Pedro Cladera in 23rd place, joined by Nils Cornelis. It's, of course, the 12th row of machines. And then the final 5 machines of the grid tonight: Timo Paya, Sandro Orsini, Jose Godinho, Stephen Orell, and Dirk Brinksma indeed. With that said, we are getting very, very close to race time here. And mind you, of course, ladies and gents, we haven't even mentioned it. We've gone through practice and qualifying without mentioning the elephant in the room at any race at Monza, basically, Edward, which is always going to be lap 1, turn 1.
Yeah, but thankfully we do have a little bit behind the pace car, so the drivers might be able to use a little bit of time to get some heat into the tyres. So into turn 1, they won't be, skidding off into one another and into the runoff areas. But yeah, first lap on the first corner at Monza is something that might be a little bit spicy, might be a bit exciting. That's certainly one you're going to have to stay tuned for around some races as well, because it's going to be great. You can see, though, Matthew Forrest and Eric Luke into the first corner. Will Matthew Forrest give Eric Luke any forewarning about when he's going, or will he just keep it quiet and try and catch his teammate out? That's going to be the question, because when I was doing these races and I was on pole position, I'd be telling my teammates all the time when I was going to be going. I'd give them a countdown, and then basically on go would be when I put my flat to the floor, and they'd all be able to use that to their advantage as well of get through some of the other guys around them. As you probably would have been aware, Hasse, when we did the what was it, the BMW series, and I was trying to help out my teammates when I got a couple of pole positions and then promptly vanished from the face of the front of the field.
Well, you did have the pace, Edward, but it's but it's just such a hard thing being up there consistently over a season, because you have to continually put in that practice, and at some point, someone's gone into the grass here already. That's not how you want to warm up your tires down there. That could have I don't know how the drivers down there actually managed to react to it, but it seems like they did. It seems like they did well. Look at Rob the Lobster's opening a very, very big gap ahead of him. And with that said, the safety car is going to be peeling off into the pits on the right-hand side shortly indeed, and we'll have the drivers in control of Matthew Forrest. I think he's going to go early. Yeah, he's gone now. He's just gone now. That was waiting a little bit, maybe trying to catch him up. Pete Plastow's got a great run there on Eric Luke, and I think he's going to have his nose in front. Look at the Mercedes of Macaronian behind. He's really pushing on as well. And it's Martin DeYoung on the outside trying to hold on to his position. He's going to be losing one, I believe, here. As we're watching down through the field, someone's cut the grass there.
Damien Cobra did.
Yeah, indeed. Cobra's cut the grass. I think... I was about to say everyone's come safely through. That's not exactly the case, I'm afraid. But up ahead, it's Plastow tailing Forrest. Eric Luke down into third place. And Martin DeYoung's really attempting to get past on the Mercedes of Gaston Macaroni. He's got Chris Roberts on his tail, as well as Timothy Vanderbroek, the Dutchman, for stage 1 racing. And Macaroni's gone off track here, but that must have been a quick excursion indeed. And then
I want to see what happened with Damien Cobra, because he went off track for a while and we saw him coming through. So look for Damien Cobra in the number 18, just on the inside, gets pushed onto the grass on the outside and then goes across the inside. Amazingly doesn't contact any cars, but that was him getting very close. Then there's Sizzler spinning around off of the exit of the first chicane. But Damien Cobra, very, very lucky to get away with that after a little bit of contact with Mitchell Cordera.
And something's happened to Giambattista Giacchetti, who's jumped to the pits. We have no pictures of whatever's happened to him, I'm afraid. So that'll be down to imagination. Look at Matthew Forrest doing everything he can to break the toe of Peter Plastow. This looks like DTM. With all the swerving going on, I'm not sure Plastow is going to appreciate that all too much. Eric Luke is there. Look at Martin DeYoung now trying to get into it here. I think he's going to take the position away from the Mercedes of Gaston Macaroni. He is indeed going to retake 4th place into his starting position. Now
doesn't want to lose track though, does he, with all of those Virtua Racing compound drivers up the road? He's just getting a little whiff of slipstream, but by having to defend so hard, he could lose out here. He's going down the inside into turn 2, able to just about hold on, but that Mercedes, very aggressive, trying to find a way through. He's going to have a slight overlap into the first of the 2 Lesmos, and this should be an easy move for Gaston Macaroni if he can just carry that inside line and get another run into the second Lesmo. But you know what? It's not working through, because Martin DeYoung around the outside very bravely holds it off. There's a bit of contact between himself and the Porsche of Roberts. Very scary stuff if you're Chris Roberts. His car getting up on 2 wheels from a tiny little bump might have upset the run, because I think there was a move down the inside afterwards. Was he able to hold on? We're just going to have a look at a replay this time of Timo Pyer just running wide out the first Lesmo. I want to come back to that moment coming into Ascari, because I thought there was going to be a position switching around. It looked for a moment there was a move about to be sent down the inside of Chris Roberts by Nikos Kakato, but that was eventually all sorted out. And look at this, Chris Roberts with a good line through the final bend. and get into the slipstream nice and closely behind, which he does. Could line up a move into the first corner. But look at all of the squabbling up in front. Plus now trying to find a way through on Matthew Forrest at the fastest lap of the race so far. Matthew Forrest holds on for the moment. If I was in the virtual racing compound camp and talking to these three drivers, I'll be telling them just to calm it down for these first 5 laps, build the margin, because you've got Martin de Jong, who's going to be under immense pressure from Gaston and Chris Roberts. It's just more sensible to just bide your time, work together, and not fight so hard.
It's a good point. But there's a championship to be fought for up here as well. And Eric Luke as well was in it for his first race win. I'm sure he loved that as well, this series. So all in all, while they're teammates, and we've heard this from their own mouths as well, they don't carry out team orders. So they're going to be fighting with that little bit extra respect, maybe that little bit extra try and caution themselves in order to not take each other out. Oh, Sandro Orsini, I'm afraid, has had a problem here. And that is the Gabbiano Porsche squeezes the GT set Audi on the inside. Everybody else doing a hell of a job to avoid him, though, it has to be said. Though someone else was stationary there as well. And I wonder if that was Damien Cobra. No, that's further on. And Timothy Vanderbroek and Dirk Brinksma, I'm sorry, has had issues here as well. Vanderbroek, it seems to me, is a long way down, I'm afraid, compared to the pace that he showed in practice. Gotta wonder here, Eric Luke in this BMW doesn't look quite as strong on the top speed as it's been in the last few seasons here.
Quick.
Yeah, indeed.
Ferrari's very quick and straight line, and you can just see that here as they go side by side up in front. Sorry to cut across to you, but that was very close between the pair of them. Look how much they squeezed each other on the outside going into the corner. It's Matthew Forrest. He's not hanging about, you know. He wants to keep in front. You say maybe teammates might be a little bit kinder racing together, but not necessarily the case, because you want to beat your teammate that much more. You might race just that little bit harder.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And these guys are going to be knowing one another so well. So that's another thing as well. And I know it for myself. I'm sure you do as well, Edward. When you just fool around with your teammates in practice for a few hours, you're able to do some stuff that's just incredible. And this being a racing situation, I'm sure they're having a heck of a time as well here with this trio battling it out.
It's all about personal pride, isn't it, Hasse, really? When you are racing with teammates and friends, you always find yourself getting that little bit more. If we were racing against each other, Hasse, we'd probably be going half a second faster than normal because of that. But Roberts, who was up in the top 10, but has had a mistake, a moment perhaps, into the second Lesmo, just runs a little bit too wide, touch on the grass. Oh, what a huge incident, with Nicholas Kokato. Big damage onto both cars, and that's going to be a trip to the pits, I think.
Yeah, so I'm afraid as well.
Might try and extend this stint for as long as possible, but they'll have to go another 8 or so minutes before the pit window opens. They'll go on a 1 stop. Making 2 pit stops is very, very damaging for the race, so it's probably best if you don't have the meatball flag, the sort of... What's it actually called? I'll just call it the meatball flag. But you know what I mean, the meatball flag. If you don't have that, carry on for as long as you can. But if you do, you got to come in and fix that damage.
There's no way around it. Indeed, here Dirk Reski is going to attempt on Kokato in the injured Audi there. Good evening to Daniel as well. Daniel Esterovich, welcome to you. Thank you for the kind words. And Reski, incredibly though, not getting it done on the first time. The Audi's got great grunt, but once they get up to speed, I think that damage is going to slow him down considerably. And enough for Reski to be able to at least get a good run. He might fall into the clutches of the rest of the bunch here as he turns it ahead of Reski, who didn't look too satisfied with it. Bent steering wheels put an end to the race for Timothy Vanderbroek, it seems, and that is sad news.
Yeah, the Prodrift was a good fight, that. Timothy Vanderbroek up there battling nice, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be, as we see, Craig Thompson. That was a very interesting incident, one of the more slower turn 1 crashes I've seen.
Yeah, that was like a slow motion incident, but still it happens, and when you make contact, the cars go strangely in a strange direction all of a sudden. It seemed to be what happened as well there. It's expected to be able to turn in, and then all of a sudden there was a Ferrari there on the inside. Plastow is now beginning to lose a little bit of time there on the Lambo. It seems that Matthew Forrest knows that he has to do this weaving in order to to stay in front of Peter Plastow. I'm not quite sure how the stewards here in the series would look at it, because you're basically only allowed so and so many direction changes. But some people would argue that's when you get towards the braking zone.
It's a very tricky one to try and... because it's about defensive moves. So is breaking the draft or trying to break the draft a defensive move, or is a defensive move what you would make, like you mentioned, going into the braking zone? That is
a defensive move, I think
drivers will try and argue, isn't it?
I'm going to argue it right now and say a defensive move is something... if you do something that's not the quickest thing to do, and you do it in order for someone else not to overtake you, that is per definition defensive.
But I find as well, sometimes swerving around a lot to try and break the toe means that you spend more time flat out, where a driver that takes a normal line, takes a shorter run, gains on you anyway, doing all this weaving about does kind of hold you up as basically as much as it would do giving slipstream to another driver. Sometimes even more if you are on a long straight, such as, well, the Mulsanne at Le Mans, and also down that long back straight at Nürburgring. We've seen drivers lose out positions because they were weaving just too much.
Yeah, more weaving here from Forrest. It's gonna be a long half hour. There's a few minutes remaining. Plastow, you see him get close every time there. He's a bit closer though this time around than he was at the last lap. Gotta wonder, should he just stay flat in it? I think he should maybe just stay in it. Maybe not try and follow too much. He's almost able to get the overlap, but Matthew Forrest is being very defensive. And look how that's able. Martin de Jong as well.
Yes.
To catch up to the rear end of this three-way. It's now making a bit of a quartet up here at the front.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. Martin de Jong's pace has been looking very good. He's been able to break that battle between himself and Gaston Macaroni. And from now on out, Martin de Jong has had a great turn of pace. He impressed as well last time out, didn't he, Hasse? He's been looking like a very strong competitor for Matthew Forrest in these races.
Absolutely so, absolutely so. And his level has been increasing over this course of the season as well. And he's just one of those drivers that you can never really count out. He's always there to pick up the pieces whenever someone else has any type of poor luck. I think about this little bit of weaving here from Matthew Forrest as well. The fact that their teammates might just make him just that little bit more teasy towards Pete Plastow.
Then what would you do in this situation if you're Matthew Forrest and you're up in front? Do you want to maybe give the drivers behind a bit of position, because all the time drivers in behind saving a little bit of fuel means their next pit stop will be shorter because they have to take less on board to make it till the end of the race. That could have the knock-on effect of putting Matthew Forrest in behind on those final 15 minutes, which could be something exciting to watch. Martin de Jong, though, he's in the pound seats just watching the entire snaking train of virtual racing compound drivers all the way into turn one. Is Matthew Forrest going to hold off, though, because Pete Plastow again looking very racy into the first corner, not able to make it work as they exit first chicane. Martin de Jong just staying in behind and watching the fireworks unfold in front.
Martin de Jong super quick on the brakes as well, really able to brake late and to extract a lot of time. They seem to be a little slower when it comes to the straight line capabilities of the Audi at the moment. That might be down to the setup that Martin is on here. And look out for that, because his tires could be better at the end of the race as well.
Oh, that was close to the wall on the inside of the first Lesbo. I think Martin didn't realise that as he was slow coming out of the corner as well and having to correct. Very sketchy stuff. Was able to get through that without any damage, but yeah, scarily close to the wall. And just want to touch on something that I've seen in the chat from Ben Hoffman. And to be fair, I do have to agree with weaving, like Matthew Forrest had been doing. I think he's calmed it down a little bit, but yeah, excessive weaving is something that's really is quite dangerous because, like you mentioned, you just don't know what the car in front is actually going to do. And if you say where Eric Luke is when you've got two cars up in front weaving, you're kind of left not knowing what's going to happen. Are the cars in front going to have a collision? Am I going to have a collision with the car in front of me? What's going to go on? And you kind of have to hope that everyone's got sensible heads on. Of course, if you're in the team together, if you're in the same Discord chatting to one another, it's a little bit less scary in terms of that unknown, but it's not much better, really, is it?
No, it's true, and it's certainly a good thing to remember that does indeed make it very hard to predict exactly what you're going to do when you're changing direction a few times in a straight line. Although I think he's found the balance here. It's certainly not something out of the line.
Not as extreme as it was.
You know, exactly. He's found out that... But it's sort of like Matthew Forrest is that kid, the skinny kid, able to crawl up into a tree, and now he's sitting there teasing the kids that can't crawl up into the tree from the heights of the tree as somebody's stretching their arms and almost got a bit of a tuck on his shirt to pull him out of the tree and give him a right old whooping. Stayed safe down south. Matthew Forrest, I think he knows that it's going to be a hard lead for him to defend with the slipstream here at Monza. And I think he fears the pit stop round as well, because as you said, Edward, the cars behind are going to be so close. Anything can happen there. And we might see a very different race coming into the final 25, 30 minutes than what we've seen now, at least in terms of overtakes here at the front of the race, because 1, 2, 3, 4 has been like this for a fair few laps.
I'll tell you what though, Hasse. Pete Plasnow, he'll be hoping for a big stick to try and prod Matthew Forrest out of that tree up in first place. Because he's been frustrated in behind and he's just hoping for anything to try and fight with. Maybe a mistake to try and come through. This is a good fight though. Remco Barlow, wheel to wheel, and able to then take the inside line into the second chicane and hold on. A nice little overtake there, up into 5th place for Remco. Good stuff, but just look at this. Matthew Forrest as well. I'm not sure if that weaving is going to do damage to his tyres, perhaps, Hasse. I'm not sure if you've got any more information. They are wheel to wheel, but Matthew Forrest so much later on the brakes has the ability to be committed. There's going to definitely be a worry, though, of the tyres. There's a little bit of bumping all the way through, a little bit of front-end damage, perhaps, but I think they'll get away with it just about. They are basically pushing each other through the corners at this point. And yes, I'm not sure if you're too well versed in this, but when you are having to weave and keep cars in behind you trying to break the toe, by doing so you're asking more of the tyres, scrubbing them left, scrubbing them right, might mean towards the latter stages of the race, a driver that could come out on top is drivers that haven't weaving so much, like Eric Luke and Martin de Jong.
Yeah, indeed, and you could also be slowly heating them up to a point where if you build up too much heat into the tires, be able to...
Too slidey.
Yeah, it's just going to be slidey all of a sudden, and once you slide about, that's going to heat the tires up even more, thus getting you into sort of an evil spiral of tire degradation.
It's horrible, isn't it, Hasse?
Yeah, the young here is looking, though, on Eric Luke. I was sorry to cut you off there, Edward, but that was a bit of a look there for the first time by the Audi on the BMW. Gets a very poor run here, and down towards the Parabolica. Let's see.
Picked up a slowdown, Eric Luke picked up a slowdown. Martin de Jong is going to come through into the podium places now. We saw a flash of brake lights coming out of Ascari. That has meant Martin de Jong is now up, but there's a slide. Huge moment. He collects it nicely, but that's going to open the door wide now for Eric Luke to fancy a move.
Yeah.
Gives breathing space as well to Pete Plasnow to maybe put on a bit of a charge and try and force a move through on Matthew Forrest for the lead, but there is back market traffic upcoming, so maybe it would be wiser for all drivers to cool it off a little bit, wait till they've got through this back marker and then can focus on the fight at hand as well. Pit window has opened, so any drivers that come in now will be able to fuel up until the end of the race, so there could be as a avenue for certain drivers to try alternate strategies if they feel that all of this fighting could hold them up and they'll fancy themselves with slower cars around them. They could pass easier, perhaps. Maybe fancy themselves before the end of the race. Who knows what the drivers are thinking at the moment, though.
Yeah, the thing is that they'll want to stay out, or at least usually want to stay out for as long as possible to have the car light for as long as possible as well. But of course, if you find yourself really being held up the traffic, it might be worth just taking the pit stop that little bit earlier. Of course, for Matthew Forrest, he wants to take it as late as possible. Now,
if I was Pete Plasdow, I'd just try and hope that you go in a lap before Matthew Forrest.
That's a good point. I think that's Giambattista Giachetti, of course, in the 41 Porsche. Getting lapped by the leaders. He had some kind of issue at the early days of the race. Mind you, that turn one incident, Edward, it was incredible to see Damien Cobra kiss the grass on what would be his left-hand side of the track, of course, to our right, as we see from this angle. And come across the field in the very midfield where usually there's not a lot of spaces. Here comes Ascent. At least another look there for Plastow. He comes a little bit across in the braking zone there, Matthew Forrest. Bending hard.
The brakes a lot, the front tyres as well. They're going to start to suffer just from how hard Matthew Forrest is pushing into the first corner. He asks a lot from that front end. So maybe towards the latter stage of the race, he might suffer a little bit because you can see Pete Plasdow brakes just a little bit earlier, backs off into the corner and looks after his tyres just a little bit more. He has got some front end damage though. You can see the front of the car, little bit of damage there, probably from getting into the back of his teammate one too many times. Of course, get that repaired in the pit stop, but maybe towards the end of this race. Pete Plasdow is one to watch to try and take the race victory. But this is essentially the championship fight, isn't it, Hasse? Pete Plasdow, Matthew Forrest, second and first.
Yeah, very much so. And Martin de Jong's managed to escape the claws of Eric Luke and is really opening up the gap here. And look at this yet again up ahead. It's tighter than tight. And it looks to me like the Lamborghini of Matthew Forrest ever so slightly beginning to wash out, which would indeed indicate what you said before, Edward, with the tire wear being correct. It seems to me that the Ferrari of Pete Plasdow is just that little bit more composed. He's looking to be on the outside. That's going to give a very poor line this time around to Matthew Forrest. And while he's had Pete Plasdow close before, it hasn't been this close coming into the start-finish straight. And he knows that he can't weave all about this time around because he's going to cause an incident in the end here. Pete Plasdow goes to the inside and he's going to keep this line all the way down. They're going to squeeze it in to the pit line. They almost make contact. They're onto the grass. Look at this banging doors. Oh my word.
Pete Plasdow straight lines it. So does Matthew Forrest. They both will have to serve slowdowns. Martin de Jong in the background is going to be rubbing his hands with glee because he's seen his two main rivals for this race bang doors, bang wheels, bang every bit of their car together. He's going to be able to close right up now. But what on earth happened there? This is not how you race together when your teammates. Pete Plasdow to the inside. He's over the white line, technically off the circuit, but he's trying his best to come back on. Matthew Forrest is saying a big blanket N-O. They touch once more on the apex of the first part of the chicane, bouncing over the sausage curbs, cutting the corner completely. And Martin de Jong sees all of this, thinks I'm just going to stay out of this and let these two squabble on. But look who's got through into second place. It's Martin de Jong. This is working out perfectly for the Revel Racing driver, who I think is going to be on track for a good race result, maybe even a race victory, if he can keep this up and just stay out of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely so. Absolutely so. It's looking very good for him. Let's just see. Here's the overtake from Martin de Jong on Matthew Forrest. That comes from a long way back indeed. But a measured approach, a measured move there from de Jong. A little bit of a slide on the exit. 10 style points from here. It's driving with the slip angle. Look at the speed difference as well on the Audi. He's clawing his way into the gap of the damaged Ferrari up ahead.
I was going to ask, is there damage on both of these two cars? Because the straight line speed doesn't seem to be there for either driver, Pete Plastow, or especially Matthew Forrest. And both the Lamborghini and the Ferrari are very good in this current BOP in a straight line. So that's something to maybe worry about if you are those two virtual racing compound drivers. We're going to go for a little bit further back through the field because we've got a great battle on, don't we? Pedro Marion Cladera in 13th place at the moment, but surrounded by, well, fellow Mercedes. He's got one in front, one in behind. He's got a good run through the final corner. He's going to try and find a way through on Stephen Orrell. But into the first corner, these Mercedes big heavy machines, not the easiest things to get stopped just up in front. We're going to go to another replay. And is that more damage now on the front of Pete Plastow's car?
I don't think so. We're not on the replay. It's just the live pictures here. Yeah, that's the damage. Yeah, that's the damage from the contact before with the Young and the turn 1 incident. Incredible that the Ferrari still seems to have the top speed. He's top 3 within 0.4 of a second of one another at the moment. That's incredibly close. Jimmy, you've joined at the perfect time indeed to watch what so far I have to say has been the race of the season, as we have the top 3 in the standings really duking it out. Look at the Lamborghini's just hiding behind the Audi, and then it pops out all of a sudden. It was all out of view, and he's not gonna send it into the parabolic from that far back, knowing that the Audi is as strong as it is in the corners. Looking for the run here on Plastow, though. Well. Yeah, indeed. Plastow comes into the pits.
Both virtual racing compound drivers opting to come into the pit, so Martin de Jong has to have the in-lap of all in-laps to make this work. Eric Luke in behind stays out as well. So Martin de Jong, Eric Luke first and second, but Pete Plastow, Matthew Forrest into the pits. Who is going to win? Matthew Forrest's pit times are very, very strong. He's usually quick into the pit stall, quick out of the box as well. So keep your eyes on this from the Lamborghini just up in front. As well, though, Pete Plastow stationary. Is he going to get the car up and running? He does now. And he's going to get out ahead of Matthew Forrest. Matthew Forrest still stationary, then gets up and running. Damage somewhat repaired, but not much on Pete Plastow's car. Isn't able to get that car fixed up, so has to suffer with that damage up until the end of the race. They might have been able to do a little bit, but not a whole lot. But also another thing that will tell exactly how much damage is on the car for Pete Plastow. We'll have a little time up saying like optional repairs and have a certain amount of seconds or even minutes. And that will give him an idea of just what he's having to deal with now, because you never truly know how bad the car is until you come to pits and see that horrible, horrible number on the middle of your screen.
That's true, but I think Matthew Forrest took those seconds of repairs that he might have had. He seemed to lose a little bit of time there compared to how they came into the pits. And now they're split by the Dairy is Scary Mercedes of Stephen Orrell. The vegan Mercedes, as I've called it. As always complimented to see someone with that sort of statement. And in this forum, I'd say rather brave. In comes Martin de Jong, and we're going to keep a very, very keen, close eye on this. And just where the Dutchman is going to be exiting the pits, it would be incredible if he could just swoop out ahead of his competitors from before.
Stops it nicely.
Yeah, Eric Luke's in there as well. And Luke
got an extra lap as well, so he's had the car lighter for a little bit longer. Could be very, very good for Martin de Jong. But where is Pete Plastow on the circuit? That is something to note. He's coming through the final corner now. Martin de Jong has got the car up and running. He is on pit exit now. This is going to be a battle into the first corner. But who is it going to be? Is Martin de Jong going to come out in front? Or are we going to see Pete Plastow blitz on by into the first corner? No, we're not. Pete Plastow is not close enough to make a move into the first corner. So it will be Martin de Jong now into the lead of this race for the first time tonight. And now we've got the stage set perfectly for a battle. 3 cars so far up together. Martin de Jong, Pete Plastow, Eric Luke, Matthew Forrest a little bit further behind. But he's got his car fully repaired. Expect to see him close back up when the battle inevitably starts up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Plastow's looking racy, but he'll have a little bit less of the advantage of the Ferrari on top speed with the damage he's carrying. Mind you, look at Eric Luke taking a little bit of the gravel on the exit of the first chicane. Now into the Lesmos they go. Through him as well on the way down to Ascari. De Jong sitting on about half a second's worth of advantage. It seems Plastow is still able to close up the gap, even though it's only ever so slightly. Remco Barlow has been driving a very good race so far as well. Here comes a move on Gaston Macaroni. I believe he's well up the inside. Gonna try it into Ascari. Well ahead as well. As they turn in. I think he manages to keep that one. Indeed. Oh, and that's someone having a little bit of an issue. Well, I cannot see who it was. They got it running again now. We'll be watching this with interest as well, because Plastow with the damage. Just wondering how much it's going to cost him. He's certainly not closing in on Martin de Jong as he was on Matthew Forrest early in the race, is he?
No, he's not. But I think tonight, as well as Martin de Jong, is going to go for his, I believe, his second race victory of this season. It's been a while since his first, though, all the way in, I think, the start of February in the first round of the championship at Imola. So, are we going to see Martin de Jong come through for his second race victory? He's got 15 minutes to hold out up in front of Pete Plastow and Eric Luke. But look at this, Gaston Macaroni. You can't see much on board there as the pole's in the way. But this is it, wheel to wheel into the first corner, the first chicane. So close. Just isn't able to get through the number 18 WPR racing car. Not number 18, number 16 car.
Indeed. Oh, de Jong. Oh, the back end that looks lively exiting the Lesmos there. But he's gained just about 0.2 of a second on this lap. And look at Barlow, who's now battling it with Koen Mulder. And Koen Mulder's come from out of nowhere. On these two into the second Lesmo, and through he goes. He's come from 12th, now up into 5th place. And the reigning champ certainly shows what he's made of. I think Barlow's picked up a slowdown penalty. Either that or he got a very poor exit. I wouldn't be sure exactly which. Yes, Jakob, isn't it a wonderful camera that iRacing has provided us with on the roll bar of the Mercedes? And since I cannot fix it while we're live, I tend to forget as we close down the stream, and then I go back online and say, hey, Mercedes, I want a roll bar from this shot. And then I get bet. Great indeed. The wonders of sim racing broadcasting indeed. The wonders that we're having from this race, although much less sarcastically said in the end. Pete Plastow is doing a very good job of hanging on here. Eric Luke about 3 seconds off the leader, and then another few seconds down to Matthew Forrest. I want to say this, Eddie, he's not closing the gap at the moment. So I'm wondering.
I think it's probably down to the tyres. He took a lot out of them earlier on, so even though he's got the car fixed up, it took a lot out trying to defend from Pete Plastow in the first 20 or so minutes of the race. And from then on out, he's just started to suffer that little bit more. Here's Remco Barlow, though, having another battle back with Koen Mulder into the first chicane. BMW comes back through. Good stuff from Remco. But like we're seeing back towards the front, Martin de Jong is able to stay in front. Pete Plastow with that damage. It suffered, well, basically the big strength of the Ferrari is its straight line grunt, its straight line speed. The top end in this car is brilliant, but the damage harms the one thing that he has to his advantage is that top end speed. The acceleration is something else in that Audi up ahead, but the top end isn't necessarily as much of a prevalence. This is massive, Hasse. This is huge for the championship. Matthew Forrest, mistake, contact, whatever has happened. Mistake. Definitely just takes a bit too much through Ascari. That's huge for the championship. He's going to be off the circuit. Is that damage to the rear? Is there any steering angle done? He hits the car once, hits the car twice into the wall on the back end. That could have big, big consequences if there's any sort of rear suspension damage. that could be his race over and done with. He's currently in 8th place, got plenty of cars up ahead that he could overtake. But the damage is definitely there, and this could be just a calamity for Matthew Forrest's championship hopes. And now, what does Pete Plasnow do? Does he risk even going for the race victory, or does he see this as a chance to get some good points in the championship by staying in 2nd place? He'll have the advantage in the coming few rounds now. But does he risk it, or does he think about the long game and bag some very important points?
Yeah, that's the question. I think if I were Pete Plasnow in this situation, I'd just sit tight and see maybe if an opportunity presents itself, but I'd certainly be trying to minimize the risks. Just to be able to pick up at least 2nd place and to see if you can be sure to just get that home. There's just about 10 minutes left of the race here, as this battle is going absolutely nowhere as well. Cone Mulder, Remco Barlow, Gaston Macaroni, and now Dirk Reski in the Porsche, in the 36 here. I'm sorry, bit of a pressed air from my throat. Trying to get it out. Dirk Reski in the 36 Porsche here is 7th place. He's now right ahead of Matthew Forrest. As you said, Edward, that's 4 cars right ahead of Forrest, but it's also Bruno Guedes and Nicolas Cucato very close from behind. Actually, Cucato is not that car. That is the lap machines, so that will be Giachetti. Yeah, exactly. Whether it's Giachetti or I think it's Giachetti, I'm not quite sure. But to my best of Italian knowledge, it would be Giachetti. Or would it? Because Pancetta has... is that just a C? Or is that CH?
Answers on a postcard, please, Jean-Baptiste. If you can let us know how we'd pronounce your name, that'd be greatly appreciated. But we've got a race on, Hasse, and that is Gaston Macaroni getting through into 5th place. And we've had this debate before about, is it Macaroni, Macaroni? Let's just go Macaroni. We haven't been told off for that, I don't think.
At least
so
we don't have...
rock with that.
He doesn't have a teammate called Cheese. Would have been great.
Oh, God.
Sorry for... I have already apologized for bad puns once. I will not apologize again. You'll just have to reuse the same apologies again. And think back of it. Maybe to an eternal degree. I'm afraid the Miku Mercedes has had a problem here.
Oh, the rear of the car. That's very strange to see the rear of the car losing it on the run into Ascari. It's maybe just taking a little bit too much speed into the corner. It is something that you can see in the Mercedes, is that rear end just breaking traction if you ask a little bit too much of the car, unfortunately. But there's been some great performances up and down through the field. You've got to give credit to Martin de Jong, coming up 3 places into the lead of the race so far, but as well Koen Mulder up into 4th place. He's just shy of a podium in there, and he can still get some if something happens to those up ahead. Eric Luke has just been nice and consistent in 3rd place, not been trying anything too dramatic, bagging some good points for himself as well, even though he joined late in the season and isn't necessarily a championship contender. And then you've got other drivers that have made up big gains. Niels Cornelis up 12 places in Star Race, as has Jose Godinho. So plenty of scope for drivers who have had some great races here, just by staying out of trouble, but also hitting their strides beautifully. Like we've seen from this man, Koen Mulder, which shows why he is last season's champion, because while he can't qualify as quickly in the races, he's brilliant. He makes up so many places, but oh my word, send down the inside. Gaston Macaroni comes from so far back into the side of Koen Mulder. Koen, I thought, was going to lose out even more, but doesn't. Flashes the lights to show his frustration. I think you can definitely sympathise with him because he came from a while back, but I'm not sure if it was maybe something that you should have left a little bit more space, maybe anticipated that, seeing the car down the inside. It could just be one of those things, though. Monza T1 is always a track where drivers push the limits of the brakes.
It seems to be one of those corners where you tend to have a bit of a boxing match coming into it. There are blows exchanged, lap after lap after lap, door-to-door racing, which is something these GTs take a bit better, and something I've noticed as well as of late. It's been some time now, but there was an update to some of the collision physics in iRacing, especially the sort of lower intensity collisions that would allow the cars to touch and scrape and rub against one another a bit more before they sort of throw each other off track. And I think we've really seen some of the very best of exactly that here, because while we've seen some sketchy moments indeed, we haven't seen any of these overtaking or slight, like banging of doors and a bit of contact here and there, a little buckling and banging, and a little argy-bargy, as Murray Walker would call it. We haven't seen it come into great, calamitous form in the end, and that's nice to see here as this looks to be a grand scrap. Here's Dirk Reske. Look at this in the Porsche. He's passing through the pack here, and he's up into 6th place. He was in 8th, I think, last time we checked out. And the two on the inside, that's Macaroni, Mulder, and then there's going to be Paolo at the inside of Dirk Reske as well into turn 1. Everybody trying to get
Mulder,
the jump.
So late on the brakes.
Oh,
somehow stays
he got
ahead.
it. He got it done. I didn't even look at that.
He was around the outside. He sent it so late on the brakes, carried the momentum around the outside, then got the inside. Just look at this. He sends it in so late, but gets the advantage, able to take a decent enough line and then stay up ahead. And that's the Macaroni. Gives him a little bit of a bump, a little bit of a hurry up on the exit. But it keeps Mulder up into 4th. But this is a great fight, and you can see someone else involved in the mix. Matthew Forrest trying to claw back some places, currently in 8th position. Definitely doesn't have the pure pace as of course the damage that he suffered, but definitely in with a shout nevertheless of making up some places, but has to be wary of that man in behind, Bruno Guedes, 750, up in 9th place. Definitely looking to have a good, strong finish. And you can see the potential of even a 4th place just up the road, not 2 seconds in front.
Now, and Matthew Forrest better be wary of having a red color on his car. That goes for a few of the other drivers up ahead with a bull coming in from behind. Might just put him into rage. Don't want to see that, but he's been driving a brilliant run here over the final parts of this race. Probably enjoying the fact that he has a clean car to challenge the drivers up ahead here, the Portuguese. Certainly looking at a strong result here. Look at the snake of cars up ahead. Mando Young's looking at a 0.6 second advantage down to Pete Plastow. Oh, and here comes Guedes up the inside of the Lamborghini. He's going to take 8th place away from Matthew Forrest. And if he can just make it work into the corner again, he's going to make contact with Paulo. It doesn't.
Oh, there's contact.
There's Reske.
Oh, my word. That was just the worst possible place for that car to be stopped for Bruno Guedes and Remco Barlow. Dirk Reske, let's have a look here. It's exactly how it all happened. Dirk Reske up in front. Gets a tag from Remco Barlow. And then all of a sudden there's just a car park, but it works out beautifully for the man on the inside, Matthew Forrest. He's finally had a bit of good fortune after that mistake at Ascarian. Oh, Bruno Guedes has had a moment. This is live pictures into the second chicane. We were just talking about how good his race had been going, how strong he'd been in this final stage. We don't see exactly how it had happened. We're going to follow a replay this time. He's down the inside. Oh, and there's a huge shunt. That's a big moment with, I think, Sandro Orsini.
That's Dirk Reske. That's the two drivers from before. I think that's Red Misted. That's Red Misted, the bull. Let's talk about the curse of the commentator, but in a different way that we've seen before. I'm so sorry for applying that to... I should have kept my mouth shut, shouldn't I? There's been another one, you say?
There's been so much going on that I think as well, Pedro Maran Cladera has been involved in an incident somewhere. You can see that he's currently in the pit lane, as is Stephen Earle. Don't want to say anything about it, but 2 cars suddenly in the pits might mean that something's happened between those 2 Mercedes drivers, but we are approaching the latter stages of the race. Guess the Macaroni fancying a move. This is Stephen Earle with a lot of damage now on his car.
Yeah, he's had a few incidents. He's had a few incidents off camera, and I think that's the major cause of it. That whole kerfuffle there has caused this fight to really calm down all of a sudden. And it was a gift sent from above for Matthew Forrest, who does seem to be a little bit off the pace for tonight here. Certainly not his usual self. Slightly surprised I think he'll be at his luck all of a sudden there, because that could have ended up in many different ways, that particular scenario. Up ahead though, Martin de Jong's now looking at a 1.1 second or so advantage down to Pete Plasto's, looking better and better for de Jong here as we're getting so close. Just a minute and a half from... It's going to be the white flag indeed, Edward. These last 10 minutes has absolutely flown by. I thought it was 2 or 3. I was still expecting there to be, 7 or 8 minutes left. And then all of a sudden, we're on to the final lap of the race with Martin de Jong leading Pete Plasto, Eric Luke, Koen Mulder, Gaston Macaroni, and then Matthew Forrest. Oh, and this one's not over yet.
Matthew Forrest could still come through into 4th place if these two keep on fighting the way they are into the final bend they go. Round the outside goes Gaston. Koen Mulder holds a nice tighter line but gets good acceleration at the corner, and now the top end of both of these cars is very strong, so it's going to be slipstreaming from Koen Mulder into the first corner. A key zone where we can see the overtakes made all evening long. Is he going to go to the inside? Is he going to go to the outside? He goes around the outside. He's done this once before. Can he do it again? Late on the brakes. Macaroni holds firm. Keeps his car in 4th place for now. But Koen Mulder with a good run out of the chicane could easily challenge into the next one. So keep your eyes on the Ferrari. Is there going to be a move opening up through the second chicane? No, there isn't, so they stay where they are for the moment. What's the gap, though, to the cars in front? Martin de Jong is still keeping a decent, healthy gap to Pete Plasto in 2nd place. This could be on the cards for Martin de Jong to take his 2nd race victory of the season, his first time since the start of the season where he took his first race victory. Been through a bit of a dry spell, picking up podiums here and there, but this is a time where he's shown that he is really, really on it. Was denied victory last time out at Alton Park by Matthew Forrest, but he's going to come through now to take a very strong race victory through the final corner. Hasse, it's Martin de Jong.
And he takes the checkered flag, and it's a well-deserved win for the Dutchman and Revel Racing, who takes it ahead of Pete Plasto. And I don't think Plasto is going to be all too disappointed with this. He's gaining some valuable points on his rival in the championship. A driver who will place 6th. Here's Eric Luke in 3rd place. Macaroni is gonna come home for 4th ahead of Koen Mulder and the aforementioned Matthew Forrest, who gets 6th place in the end after an eventful race, to say the very least there. Gonna ride for the line? No. He's crossed it as well. He's just gotten out of it very quickly indeed there. Nicolas Cocato comes home for 7th. Dirk Reski in 8th place ahead of Remco Barlau, who I think might have had some kind of issue late in the race. He seemed to... Oh, he was held up in that incident, of course, as well. That's actually not a bad idea to maybe check it out from his point of view. Ooh. So he gave the push there, of course, unintentional. And then another little bit of a touch. And then he gets a bit of a tangle as well. You can see Matthew Forrest just says thank you very much indeed as he goes on through on the inside. With a few drivers left, here is Jose Godinho for GT Set Bulls. His Audi, and then Trickerici and Chris Pio's gonna have a run to the line here. And I think Trickerici takes it by just about a 1/10 of a second from Chris Pio in a heavily damaged Ford GT. Here's Bruno Guedes out to take the checkered flag, but in 15th place, which is not what he wanted. Matt Sissler comes home for 16th. Chris Roberts is 18th in the end. And my word, the Miku Mercedes, I don't think...
Miku's missing on the front there.
Yeah, Miku's gone. Miku's gone, I'm afraid. And so has the will to go on for Cladera here, I'm afraid.
He's finished the race and I think just absolutely stacked it into the wall, which is a sign of his frustrations, I think, but at least he did it after the race and not taking out anyone in the process. It's just unfortunate, I think, for Pedro Maron Cladera, like we said, came in late in the day, and I think it might have just been a bit of misfortune as well as maybe out of practice a touch. But Hasse, the results are up on our screens now. And what a race that was from the Dutchman, Martin de Jong, for Revel Racing, who flew through and took, I think, the first race victory under the Revel Racing moniker, because they were Holy Cow Racing at the start of the season, weren't they? But first victory for Revel Racing for Martin de Jong, very well earned after a great fight with Pete Plastow in second place, and Eric Luke coming through, consistent drive for him up into third place. Koen Mulder, wow, a champion's drive from last season's champion, making up several positions up into fourth place ahead of Matthew Forrest, who lucks out a little bit and comes through into fifth place after a very hectic race. Good stuff from Matthew. Nicholas Cacato finishing in sixth place ahead of Remco Barlow, Jonas Vinagre, Niels Cornelis, and Gaston Macaroni, who completes the top 10. Gaston Macaroni was actually fighting with Koen Mulder for fourth place in those final few moments. So I wonder what happened to Gaston. Maybe there was a post-race time penalty that was applied there, because that seems to be a huge margin of difference, 30 seconds compared to where he was on the road, near enough. Reski in 11th ahead of Jose Godinho for GTZ Bulls, Alfredo Chicarici in 13th. Chris Pio, first of the 4 GTs for Apex Tech, in 14th place ahead of Bruno Guedes, Cody Steeg, and Matt Sizzler, with Chris Roberts 18th place, one lap down, as is as well Robert Van den Heuvel, Rob the Lobster in 19th ahead of Sando Orsini, Pedro Maron Cladero in 7th ahead of Giambattista Giacetti, Stephen Orel, Damien Cobra, Gaston Bordy, Timo Paya, Craig Thompson, and Timothy Vanderbroek, rounding out the field here this evening. But, well, what a race it was. Monza definitely didn't disappoint, Hasse, and we've had a great race to talk through. And I think you can have a word with our race victor, who you've brought into the commentary box. Why don't you have a word with Martin de Jong?
It shall be my pleasure indeed, Martin. Welcome to the comms booth. What a race. For me, that was the race of the season so far. An amazing one indeed. And a great win for you as well. Congratulations on that. Second win of the season. I am sure you are elated right now.
Foremost, I am a little bit exhausted. I mean, this was pretty intense. And yeah, thanks. If you thought it couldn't get any better or closer after Alton Park, which was also very intense, yeah, we'll just put an extra dime on it and do it all over again, but better.
And you had a brilliant run there on the pit stops, and while also managing to keep your nose clean for the entirety of the race. Did you expect to be able to come out the pits and really challenge for the lead, or did it come as a surprise to you as well there?
Yes and no. Usually I know I do pretty well on the pit stops, but then again I take a lot of risks entering the pits, but also releasing the pit limiter again. The only thing I did wrong was actually not using my traction control override when starting to drive again, so I think I actually could have gained another half a second at least. But yeah, I was hoping to jump Steve and Matthew. Yeah, and in the end it worked out perfectly. Also the scaffold they had worked. Yeah, it's something like, oh yes.
And knowing that pretty much everybody else, even at the front of the race, had been banging doors and something could be saying worse things in those situations. Do you think at least that you'd had a different mindset coming into this one? Maybe a little bit more relaxed, maybe a little bit more easy, or a little bit less pressure on your shoulders that managed you to stay clean out there at a very hectic race there today?
Well, of course, when you drive a lot or enough, you learn, and what I tend to learn is be relaxed a little bit more, and then the lap times will remain, which also happened, but that didn't mean I was pushing like crazy also to catch up. I mean, at the start, Gaston had a very, very good start, which in the end costed me about 3 or 4 seconds. but I managed to close up that gap by just keeping my cool and doing my thing. Yeah, and I'm still a little bit flabbergasted about the win. I didn't really expect it, but it's very welcome, of course, and yeah, pushing like crazy just to try to get Pete in the championship and maybe even Matthew. We will most certainly keep trying until the end.
Indeed, and that brings me to the final question here. My next round is Barcelona, and this round's results certainly open up the championships. Last time we spoke about this, you were kind of reluctant to speak of yourself as a candidate for overall victory. But if it keeps on going like this, you're going to be in with a shot at the end. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Barcelona will shoot the Audi pretty well, and yeah, in the end we'll have to see on how it turns out. I mean, Matt is always blistering quick in the Lamborghini, and Pete somehow is blistering fast in the Ferrari. I have no idea how he does it, because when I try it, I can't get close to his lap times in the Ferrari. Yeah, but in the end, I'm not going to say I'm candidate for the win in Barcelona, but it's just the same mindset I will go in as I went in this race, and that's just give it everything I have and try to keep clean.
Well, indeed, Martin, congratulations on a beautiful win today. And before we let you go off and celebrate, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to, as per SRW TV tradition?
A shout out, of course, to Robert for the amazing series, and to you guys for the great commentary. Can't wait to watch the stream back again. And a special thanks for VRC, A, for the good racing, B, thank you for the scuffle you had for this race, and yeah, just a great group in general with clean racing. So yeah, can't wait until next one.
Indeed, Martin, thanks for joining us for this post-race chat. We indeed appreciated the time you took to have a bit of a chat with us. Congratulations again, and we hope to get the chance to speak with you again soon. That was indeed Martin de Jong, which brings us on to Edward May, who's going to have a word with our second place finisher, a man I assume is going to be rather pleased with the result as well today. Here is Edward May with Pete Plaster.
Yeah, welcome to the Comstocks, Pete. That was a very exciting race for you. Nonetheless, that first phase when you were squabbling with your teammate Matthew Forrest, just how exciting was that? Those first few stages when you were just trying and find a way through on your teammate. How was it?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I thought I'd just settle in, sort of try and get a gap to the guys behind us. But Matt was quite aggressive in his defending, so it had to come to an attack at some point, and I felt like that was the best opportunity.
Were there any words spoken in the Discord? I'm guessing you were all in the Discord together. Maybe talk through strategies. He
goes off in a quiet zone and takes himself away from the Discord. Yeah,
heads down, focus. So you thought, right, you can't have my teammate not having an easy time of things. You were going to go for it, and just before the pit phase, we saw a huge moment where you were forced onto the grass. How scary was that? Making sure that you got through, and also didn't take each other out.
Yeah, I do know it cuts up, but he gave me no space on that right-hand side at all. So I'll have to speak about it with him before I say anything damning. But yeah, it's pretty aggressive defending and attacking on both sides, really. So it was what it was. We both came away with a little bit of damage, I think.
To be fair, it could have gone a lot worse. Yeah, you both managed to get through with a little bit of damage and came through, and the real damage done to Matthew's Forest race was done well after that with a moment through Ascari. And after that point, when you saw that your main championship rival had a moment, did that settle you into a bit more of a rhythm in the second phase and think, right, second place is good enough?
No, at no point did I think second place was good enough. I had Martin on me straight away, and then out of the pit stops, Martin came out in front, and I was just trying to hang on to him because I think my damage was slowing me down a bit, maybe. But
how bad was it actually when you come into the pits? Because obviously it tells you the amount.
I had 30 seconds of optionals.
So quite a bit, and that obviously affects your straight end, your top end speed, and as a result,
I know that Audi was fast anyway, so
Yeah, but still, that was great from you, and obviously it bolsters your chances in the championship as we come towards the final few rounds. The next round in 2 weeks' time at Barcelona. What are your hopes coming into these final three? Do you think you can take maybe another race victory, take the championship at the end?
Hopefully, obviously that's the goal, but Matt's very fast, and so is Eric, and Eric, Luke, and Martin's also there now as well. So it's super tight up the top. It's great racing all around from everybody, really.
With 3 rounds still to go, anything can happen, mate. Congratulations on your P2 finish. And before we say goodbye, let you get off and celebrate with the rest of your team or have a debrief after the race. Who do you want to shout out on the broadcast?
Just a shout out to the team, great bunch of guys. And that's why I enjoy my racing, because I like racing with these guys. And thanks to Martin for organising this league as always.
And thank you for taking part and giving us some great action to commentate over, Pete. Thank you, and congratulations on your P2.
Thank you.
So Hasse, a little bit of spice maybe coming through there. It wasn't necessarily the most happy Pete Plas, though, after some of the battles he had with his teammate, but they are going to talk about it, and maybe we'll see some rules of engagement brought up for the next few rounds, which could be very interesting to see if they are followed in the final few rounds of the championship.
Well, indeed. And it brings us into the third podium finisher today, and another VRC driver as well. Eric Luke, welcome to the comms booth here post-race. Third place for you today, and after what was a both hectic, eventful, and for us watching along here on the sidelines, a very, very exciting race in the end. How did you see it out there on track today?
It was white knuckle. The first half of the race, with the tow, the three of us were kind of dragging each other along, and what I was hoping is not fight, just build the gap to the people behind us, and then worry about it after the pit stop. That was kind of my thinking behind it, but it didn't necessarily turn out that way, and I just got very, very lucky to finish P3 today.
Yeah, because it seemed it was a bit of a, not as bad as a war of attrition as we've seen in some other races, but still, though, a sort of survival of the fittest race out there today, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Without a draft, it's very, very difficult here to catch the group in front of you. So when Matt and Peter broke away from me, after a little incident at turn 1, and Martin came up behind me, I knew that battling him would pull the gap further apart. So I really didn't want to fight with him. I got a bad drive coming out of one of the corners, and he was able to overtake me in the draft very easily. And my ultimate downfall, and again, me getting lucky, as Matt had a spin towards the end of the race after the pit stops, my fuel calculator lied to me, so I ended up going into fuel saving mode. I had to adjust the map, had to do a lot of lifting and coasting, so my chances of being able to stay with those guys went away pretty quickly after the pit stop.
Well done to keep it alive all the way to the end then there, Eric. You came in late in the season, or at least like midway through, and you've settled into a very quick pace immediately. Are you carrying hopes of a race win before the end of the season here?
I'm hoping. I'd have to look at the schedule. My big chance was Road Atlanta. Huge fan of that track. Unfortunately, I made a mistake there, but no, taking it to Matthew and to Peter is a tall task, and I'm hoping one of these days I can go ahead and knock that win out.
Indeed. We'll hope to see that as well. Great having a chat with you, Eric. Thanks for stopping by the comms booth. And of course, we hope to get another chance to have a talk with you soon as well. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to while we've got you here?
Big thanks to you guys. I enjoy watching the broadcast post-race. You guys do an amazing job at SimRacer World TV, so please keep up the good work. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
Well, thank you for the kind work, Eric, the kind words and the good work on track as well. It's been a pleasure, and as I said, I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, sir.
So that was indeed Eric Luke, and that concludes the interviews for today, Edward, after an amazing race indeed. It's been, I said it before, I'll say it happily again. For me, so far at least, the race of the season this year.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those cars in the first phase battling for the race lead, that was something else. A little bit of spicy teammate drama as well coming through. We've had everything today, and of course, a race victory that I think will be very well received throughout the paddock. Martin de Jong is definitely going to be very pleased with that race victory. The first one since he took it at the start of the season as well at Imola, following, I believe it was teammates coming together, if I'm not so mistaken, Martin de Jong and who else it was, but I definitely think that wasn't Martin de Jong, sorry, it was Matthew Forrest and someone else having a collision, wasn't it, Hasse, if you can cast your mind that far back. So we're seeing it again, but it's all coming to a head in this final stage of the season where the championship has been blown wide open now. So you don't want to miss it. In 2 weeks' time, we go to the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya, and that will be one venue you do not want to miss all the action at on SimRacers World TV.
Most certainly so. It's been a pleasure having you all along for tonight, as we are at the end of affairs indeed. This broadcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join in with me and Edward May as well tomorrow as the SRW NASCAR Next Gen Cup Series take the first road circuit visit of the series history, at least when it comes to broadcast official point scoring rounds, as the circus that is the NASCAR Cup Series does indeed visit Watkins Glen, and that's tomorrow at 8:15 Central European Time. And with that said, of course, thank you to SimracerCoin for sponsoring the series. Thank you to Rob the Lobster for throwing this Grand Series indeed. To all the participating drivers from us here at SimRacers World TV. It's been a pleasure having you all along watching with it as well. And from Hasse and Edward in the booth. Until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.